Hey, folks, it's Lindsey Huddleston back in the building. Another SPS Edge Show. That's right. Here it is. We're getting through the month of January already, 2021, with my great co-host, Mr. Terry McCord Jr., also joined by Coach Orlando Watkins. We got a very special guest beside him right now, Brother Glover Ernest, holding us down all the time. We love Glove doing it all the time. I appreciate you guys being around and being close by, helping us get our message out. Looking forward to some high school basketball getting started in the state of Michigan in the coming weeks. But right now, Terry, before we can even go into what we had planned, you know, we can't help but deal with the news from the headlines, man. And I want to thank you publicly. I always give you your accolades on this show. But I want to thank you, brother, for being a hard-charging, committed, socially conscious young man. Because I tell you what, after watching the events of yesterday, the past 24 hours, knowing that we had a show to do, I didn't have it in me, man. I know we text and we talk, and I was just saying how mentally overwhelming it can be to watch those things, process it, and come up with your own, you know, idea of what that means. But then turn around and you have to be in a somewhat of a public type of tone to talk about it on the show, maybe. In my particular role with Michigan State in the press corps, talking to Tom Izzo about it, which I'll show in just a second, Josh Langford. But I want to thank you, Terry, because even though I'm significantly older than you, I can lean on you right now, because you being a young brother saying, man, look, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about that. And I was like, as much as I didn't have the emotional capacity to want to do it, I said, we got to do it. But it was your push. It was your reality. Say, hey, man, I know we're talking about this. And I'm like, you're right. So you have helped me because I'm worn out. I know my brothers on the line are worn out. When we see the images, and if you want to just do a quick comparison of what's happening in America, we look at the summer and Black Lives Matter protesters going to the Capitol and police in full riot gear with several circles around the Capitol, to what we just saw yesterday, which was a complete breach of, you know, security. And I hate to use a bad taste meme, but they got one of Bin Laden out there saying, you mean to tell me all I had to do was walk up to the door? So with that being said, man, I was able to speak with Tom Izzo today, just a few hours ago. I mean, literally fresh off the press. And we were able to talk about the things that were going on. So if you give me a second, what I want to do is go and share that. Give me one moment, and we'll talk about that. Where you at, Tom? I'm starting with, I'm going to go back and do that again. And with that, we're going to get this going. I want to shout out the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. This will be airing on Saturday and Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to my guy, Don Houston and Clarence Babor doing their thing. But I want to share this with you, Terry, right now. This is from this just a few hours ago.
Next to Lindsey Huddleston.
Hey, Tom, I want to talk about things happening on a larger scale, the huge distraction that's happened for a lot of people watching the national media. Can you talk about the power of sports right now? Sometimes it's a welcome distraction, but now it's kind of like a needed distraction for some people, that your program can allow people to lock in for a few hours and kind of get their mind off all the other things going on in the world?
It's a damn good question. And I didn't watch a lot of it because the little I watched made me sick. It was a disgrace, I think, to all of us. And in all honesty, nothing like that should be tolerated. I can only do what I can do here, and hopefully I have a platform to help others, and hopefully my players do. And I think you bring up a good point, but we're going to continue to demand and work with our players to treat everyone with respect. I didn't see anybody respecting anybody yesterday. Not what I saw. Not what I saw at our state capitol, and not what I saw at the national capitol in Washington, D.C. over the last 4 or 5 months. Take nothing away. I'm 100% agreeing that people should protest. But I've never agreed with protests that led to destruction of property or lives being lost. And as they say, I think Draymond said it, that wasn't a protest, that was a riot. And I didn't think there was any class or character showed in that. But my responsibility to my team, to my own kids, to the players, to this place I have, is to make sure that we respect everyone, honor everyone, I don't care if you're white or black or Hispanic or Jewish. I don't care if you're young or old. I really don't care if you're rich or poor. If we want equality, equality covers everything. And equality covers some of the things that went on yesterday. And I'm hoping that each and every individual that was involved in that is held responsible. But I'm going to continue to represent and shoot for total equality in our program, our university, hopefully our state and our country. And those are big goals. So I can control one in my mind. I can control the one here. And I can start to control or help control the one in our state. But I don't know enough about it, Lindsay, to continue, except that I was disgusted and disgraced by what went on. And it makes it very difficult to see things like that happen and then have to go talk to your players and think of some of the things that have happened over the summer and not feel there is some injustice. And so, you know what? I don't consider that kind of protest American. I really don't. And I'm just going to stick with what I said and handle things the best I can handle here. But it makes me want to fight even harder for this equality that we all need, and makes me fight harder for protesting. I agree with protesting. I think people got to be able to say and do what they think. It's just, we got to quit getting to this destructive way and lives being lost. And that's what I'm shooting for, Lindsay.
Thank you for sharing that, Tom.
Yeah, man. That's Coach Tom Izzo right there. And I think a perfect way to bookend that, you brought to my attention, and this now made the news several times over, of Chattanooga football coach. And to be honest, Terry, when you shared it with me, I thought it was high school. This is a college football coach.
Yeah.
Made some disparaging remarks about Stacey Abrams. And I'll say exactly what this gentleman said. His name is Chris Malone. He's the University of Chattanooga offensive line coach. And he deactivated his Twitter account after this comment. He said, "Congratulations to the state of Georgia and Fat Albert," and he at Stacey Abrams, who was the constructor of that Democratic Senate takeover in the state of Georgia, "because you have truly shown America the true works of cheating in an election. Enjoy your buffet, big girl. You earned it. Hope the money was good. Still not governor." This is a coach. And we just heard a Hall of Fame coach make a statement that he was prepared for, but ironically, Terry, guess what? No one in the press corps asked about that. So that was going to be a statement that probably was going to be made at the very end. But as soon as I knew we were having a press avail today, man, that was on my heart. I'm like, man, how would you feel if you were a player, and things like that? And then we got a guy like the coach at Chattanooga making those kind of comments and feeling confident about it, and then trying to deactivate his Twitter account. I'm like, that's not going to change anything for you. What I want to do, Terry, before I get your comments, I want to bring up Josh, our guy Josh Langford's comments that he made. I think they are very appropriate as well. And then between the two of those, we can really break this down a little bit. So give me a second, and I'll bring Josh up right now. And again, shout out to the Streets of Talking Podcast Network. Those guys are doing an excellent job. We're happy to keep it moving with these guys and keep it going. So let's see what we got with Josh.
Josh? And we'll go first to Lindsay Huddleston.
Hey, Josh. How you doing? Coach Izzo was really emphatic when he talked about the events that happened yesterday at the Capitol. Definitely had you guys back too. Can you talk about you being a leader and what it means when things are happening in the world and you guys got to get ready for a game like Purdue, but guys still have issues? What is it like for the teammates to deal with those type of things?
I think it's difficult because, at the end of the day, we are American citizens. So, it is disheartening and sad to see that going on. And so you have to have that fine balance because like you said, we do have a game coming up. And so we have to realize that, if we're not focused and in the best mindset that we can possibly be, to be the best we can be on our platform, then we're actually hindering ourselves to be able to promote the change that we can possibly promote. through being able to bring healing and encouragement. So, you got to have that fine balance. You have to realize that you can't necessarily try to control the things that you can't control, but you have to control the things that you can control. And so, how we prepare and how well we play, that's actually going to be either, some support to people or it's not. And, sports right now is, especially with COVID and all the other injustices that has been going on in the world, this definitely has been bringing some light to people's lives. So we just want to continue to focus on our platform, but we are at the same time, we're sad about it, we're disheartened, and, we are concerned.
Yeah, man, there we go, Terry. We've had Hall of Fame coach Tom Izzo sharing his comments on the storming of the Capitol that took place yesterday. We hear about an assistant, probably soon to be, if he hasn't been fired already, coach at University of Chattanooga. It's being totally derogatory towards Stacey Abrams. It's unnecessarily just rude for no reason. And then you hear a guy like Josh Langford, who actually reminds me of you when you were a player, Terry, just your poise and your leadership. And not that I was surprised that Josh could share that kind of statement, but I think I was taken back by it was so appreciated at the moment. Because again, I'm on this press call, Terry, and no one's wanting to talk about this because I know what they're saying. Their readers, their viewers probably don't really think that it's a priority or care. But the fact that the head coach of a national program already has a prepared statement, and when his former players like Draymond Green get on their press, go on their presser and go in on the subject, I think it's something. So a lot has been said, but give me your feedback on all three of these things, from Tom Izzo's comments, the coach at Chattanooga, as well as team captain Joshua Langford making his statements on what took place at the U.S. Capitol yesterday.
Yeah, from Coach Izzo, I think did a great job of expressing his frustrations and still answering your question. I agree. The fact that, it can be frustrating to see those things. Because, one thing that to me is kind of funny how, you African Americans are upset at the reasons of why we're upset about, like, you see them rioting and nothing's being happened to them. Like, they're just being let in. They weren't really trying to stop them. And then you see that Caucasian people are, upset because they're disrupting, the White House. They're disrupting the whole area. They're rioting. They're breaking into the state capitol in DC, and they're breaking stuff and doing that to their stuff. So it's kind of funny to see both groups mad about different things. But it comes down to it. When it comes down to it, though, the biggest sense and the biggest source of this is Trump. Like, when is Donald Trump gonna take his loss? Times and times again, he hasn't seen any victories this whole election process.
Other than serving them high L's all year long.
Yeah, other than election night, before they counted the mail-in ballots, that's his only win to some people. But it's really him. And you see, like, Mike Pence, former vice president, has taken his loss. I'm gonna just say that, taking his loss. Trump still hasn't taken his full loss. And these people are still being fueled by his, they're still being fueled by him, still saying that the election was corrupt, still saying that it was fraud. The more and more time, like, I get it. Maybe you're trying to save your ego and save your brand as Trump, and like trying to promote and be egotistic still, but you're fueling this. And I think he doesn't realize his influence on those people, because now that he's been in there for 4 years, and he has been in there for 4 years, and there's a countdown for him leaving. Those people, the racist people, sexist people, have gotten comfortable in the last 4 years. And now it's hard. This is what we get for allowing someone like himself, like Trump, to be in office for 4 years. These are these are like the consequences, in a sense. So it's something we have to deal with, and it's going to take a lot to put out this fire that we let set in the White House.
Yeah, excellent words, man, no doubt. And I just want to say, for anyone who catches this and says, okay, you guys are talking politics, but this is a thread with sports. The memes you put up now with Colin Kaepernick saying, okay, saying, why don't you guys just be peaceful protesters like you were telling me to be, or you had an issue with it. Just the hypocrisy is unreal. And I think what it does for a lot of people, man, it just forces the hand that it said, okay, this is what we're dealing with. Tell me what you think about that coach in Chattanooga making those disparaging remarks about Stacey Abrams and then saying, oh, you didn't win governor. Like, dude, she probably would trade off any day not being governor to help get 2 U.S. senators elected to flip the House to now Kamala Harris, vice president, will be the tiebreaker in the Senate. It means that it pretty much, you got the majority, and here you go. Like, that doesn't even sound like a competitive statement saying, yeah, you didn't win governor. So what do you think about that?
I thought it was sickening because for someone who probably recruits African-American players, and, you know, for me to see that, how he says that about a Black woman and how, you know, how he talks that way about her, it's sad. I mean, I know if I'm a player and this man is coming to my house recruiting me, it almost makes me think, like, are you going to treat my mother this way if she does something that you disagree with? I mean, this is the same guy that's like, this is going to be your home. I'll take you under my wing. I'm going to show you the way. Because ultimately, I mean, your coach is someone who is a big influence on your life. He's teaching you how to become a man as you're growing. Because football, there's more to them just football.
Our coaches are father figures, whether you got a father at home or not. I know you have an active dad. Shout out to your dad, Terry. But even coaches still bring that. You're right. But go ahead, please.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so not only is just the coach, he's your position coach. And so it's just sad to see him say that.
Terry said you're a position coach, so you can't even get away from him.
Yeah. So, I mean, me being around him, I mean, as a school, they're probably thinking about that, getting rid of him because of that. And 2, you just don't do that. You don't speak that way. You wouldn't say that to your daughter or your mother, you know, and knowing that you don't speak that way about other people. And she's done a lot of great work. Sometimes people overlook her work and her activism and, you know, getting out there, talking to people, getting people going down there in Georgia. So a lot of big props to her. And lastly, with Langford, I mean, with the guy, the way that he holds himself, his poise, like you mentioned, I mean, there's nothing that I didn't expect out of him, you know, keeping the team together. I saw that with the Celtics and Heat, you know, their coach, Brad Stevens, is quoted by him, is that, you know, he didn't know if there was going to be a game. And I think he said that in a sense of like, did he want them to play? Yes, sure. But also he was like, he knew his place. He was like, this isn't about me right now. If my players don't want to play, I get it. But then, you know, just having everyone just being so shook about playing or not, I think Langford's whole thing is to stay focused, don't let them win, keep pushing on and keep pushing harder because they're continuing to lose every day. I mean, it may not be over by the night, but as long as you continue to push and you see victories and you see different things flipped and you continue to push for it, like Trump's out. Now it's time to make the next move and keep going and going. I think that's good. I think that's key for the players to keep playing. And it's also key for them to keep doing what they're doing because them playing is still, you know, using their platform to speak up.
Yeah, and that's one thing I want to go back to that he said that really just kind of touched me. And Josh has been a good friend. That's my brother. I love that young man. He's wise beyond his years. But even still, it just caught me. That's like with you. You and I have a relationship, or me, you and Orlando, or Glove that's on the call. And if you said something to me at a time that was still impactful, even if we good, I'll still be like, man, like that was heavy. And I think when Josh made the comment that it's important for them to stay focused and play well, because if they're successful, it helps them with their platform. I'm like, wow, that was really well put. You know, it's funny, man, when sometimes you almost have to feel apologetic for being expressive. And again, the last thing I'll say about this as we get ready to transition to the sports aspect of what we're going to talk about, you know, from the moment I knew we had a call today, which we always do prior to a game, the day before a game, it was just on my mind about, you know, making this connection between what's going on and being on the call. But ironically, it wasn't like people were trying to rush to ask that question because you got the major news outlets, both digital as well as, hey, I don't even know if they have, yeah, they do have free press and news by hand now, you know, the hard copies. But it was just amazing why I just felt that my true purpose was to be in that room, if you will, to be on that call, to raise that question. And me as a man of color who's been consistently asking these type of things, it made the response that Tom gave even more authentic because he was speaking to a person. that he knows as opposed to just something. So that's what's going on, man. Terry, again, I want to thank you, man, for being who you are. But I guess I'm supposed to thank your parents, Kelly and Terry, as well, and your whole community, because, man, you helped me out, bro. You helped me out. I was like, when I saw this, I was like, man, what? And then what we do initially, we immediately compartmentalize things. We begin to suppress it. I said, well, if I don't have to deal with it, I'm not. But you're like, man, we got a show tomorrow. What's up? I was like, okay, let's get it. And now we've been able to have that conversation in the Michigan State community, put out something that kind of hopefully can inspire, and we're using our role to help others. So with that, we can transition into the sports aspect of what's going on and moving away from social justice, which I got to admit, we've been committed to since we started this podcast with Orlando back at the early part of this pandemic that we're looking to be coming out of soon. So, man, let's talk about Michigan State basketball now and what's been happening, man. They had like a 3-game losing streak that really blew people away, and but people got short memories, had to be reminded that they lost 3 in a row last season to non-top 20 teams. And they're like, okay, so what's the big deal? But never to be one to take credit. But I will say that conversation I had with Coach Izzo after the Minnesota lost, when I brought up the statement about alpha dog, I said alpha male and he said alpha dog. And it just kind of turned into this whole little firestorm, because then the Big Ten Network was talking about Tom Izzo's comments about an alpha dog and how you can't just make him a teen. And no, you and I are going to talk about that in a little while, but that was a real huge turning point for them. So for them to go in and be successful at Nebraska, which people expected, even though Nebraska competed, every team in the Big Ten competes. And then also, maybe Rutgers has been a little overvalued, if you will. If they were a stock option, they probably had the valuation too high. I thought that a couple weeks ago. But still, they came in and they competed. But, again, Michigan State handily walked away. But I think the key part of that piece is A.J. Hoggart coming in at the point guard. But, again, that's a whole lot being said. They got Purdue coming in tomorrow. SPS will be in the building at the Breslin Center. If this was Purdue at home, Terry, in Mackey Arena, non-COVID, meaning fans, I would have a heightened concern, because Purdue, year after year, man, is always one of those teams that can have the Spartans' number. That's just it, I think. But now, Spartans will be at home, which doesn't necessarily give them an advantage, but it'll be a different kind of setting. And even though Purdue always keeps a couple 7-footers, I think in this case, the Spartans still may have the edge. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think one thing that I worry about this game is that they don't look to the next game after this one. And that one's against Iowa. And I hope they don't look past it and take Purdue lightly. I mean, as they've seen, which I think they won't, because they lost 3 in a row. And now that they realize they have to bring their A game, their A game every night, I think it's key that they win this one, just to go back even 3-3, and any win is a good win in the Big Ten. But it's also a good win to keep on, because I think Aaron Henry has also responded really well to his comments. I don't know if he heard them or, I'm pretty sure he's heard them, but I mean, the way that he's responded, he's been playing well. He's been you can just tell that, not just by the stats, but everyone is starting to pick up the intensity. And I think it's led by him and his defense. I mean, MSU starting to play. They're solid defense. Ron Harper Jr. Didn't really have the best game, but I think MSU just played tough overall. I mean, they're starting to get down to their gritty MSU basketball, where they're starting to play as a team. They're feeding off one's energy, and they're starting to play hard. And I think this game against Purdue is a good tune-up game for Iowa. Iowa's going to be tough. Iowa plays at a great pace. Luke Garza in the middle is really tough and hard to guard. But I think MSU always finds ways to be in games. It's just that now that they have their alpha dog, I think with Henry and Langford stepping up pretty big for them, I think that is what's going to take them over the top. MSU's always been in games so far, and games that probably they shouldn't have been in game with, just because they should have beat Northwestern and shouldn't have beat those teams. But I think MSU, I think they're finding their way, and teams find their way in conference play. And I think this is a good time for them, and a way to get these losses done early, so then that late in the season we can get rolling into the tournament.
Yeah, you're right about that. Tom Izzo jokingly was describing his schedule so far, and talking about getting in so late because of the road games, and he added, a lot of road games. See, people don't know, for example, Michigan, not taking anything away from Juwan Howard and what he has going on, I'm a big fan, but their schedule is backloaded. So they're 8-0 right now, whatnot, undefeated, maybe 9-0 when they just play, I think, Minnesota the other night. But their schedule picks up towards the latter part, and I think people almost kind of miss that. Some schedules are front-loaded, midpoint, or back-loaded. So you would only hope that they can continue to be strong and play well and not dealing with any injury or any prolonged things that may come into play. But, here's what I want to say about Iowa. I like Fran McCaffery. I like him. I like him. What I like about him is that he's a character in the sense that he's not going anywhere. He's in that job. I've heard, other coaches, Izzo call him Franny. And I remember when he was in the press conference a year ago, he was a little personable, and I like that. But here's the thing, man. I'm not sold on Luka Garza. Okay. I take it back, Terry. I take it back. He's an outstanding college basketball player. But I think what we have to realize in most cases, in almost every case, when we talk about someone's potential as a college basketball player, Terry, we're talking about that as they're going to transition to the NBA. I do not see Luka Garza having an impact in the NBA. I just don't see it. And then I want to take a step back for a second to Aaron Henry. And Tom Izzo made a good point the other day when I asked, I said, what do you think about, Aaron kind of finding his groove, kind of getting in and kind of being a player that people were expecting him to be last year or even earlier this year. And he made an excellent point. He said, man, Mo Peterson didn't come around to this 4th year. He said it's only been the last 10 years that we expect players to, be excellent when they come in. And we do have that expectation. Oh, man, you got to be ready to go. But you got to develop. And I think something as simple as Tom Izzo talking about, and I know Coach Watkins and Glove can appreciate this if they're able to hear it. Aaron Henry working on his jumper, coming in and stopping with 2 feet. And as crazy as that sound, when I'm at the games or when I'm watching film and I see that, it's a huge difference. You know that as a player. So you can only rely on your athleticism for so long. I think we're seeing that with Rocket Watts right now. I think Rocket, who's an extremely athletic player, he needs the fundamental part to be able to allow his game to take him further. And you will see that with time, and we struggle with that. But let's talk a little bit more about Aaron Henry. You were emphatic when we talked about, that whole alpha dog thing. Like I said, this came up during the Minnesota game. And Tom said he was going to take it upon himself to be the alpha dog. And he started getting after guys. And I think he, started talking about that whole soft society thing, et cetera, et cetera. So tell me what your thoughts were on Aaron Henry in reference to alpha dog and what his play has been like since then, Terry.
I mean, I thought this year was going to be a challenge for him, just off the court and on the court, just because you're losing a guy like Cassius Winston, who literally carried the whole load last year. And then you got a younger guy like Rocket Watts, who's here and there because he's young. I mean, he still has a lot. He still has a lot to learn. But for Aaron Henry, I thought this year was going to be his year to kind of make a case that he can be an elite player. I mean, we knew that he's going to play defense, but I think offensively, people are wondering can he bring that offensive force that could kind of cater to what Cassius did. I mean, with playmaking and scoring. I think it's harder for him because he wasn't asked to score as many points. I mean, last year, if we got a couple threes out of him, a couple layups, maybe a couple runners in the middle, we'd be happy. I mean, Aaron scored 11. We were all happy because we knew he was going to score. He's going to maybe get some points, and he's going to play tremendous defense on the other side. So, I mean, for him now growing and having that alpha dog, having people play defense, bring their energy up, I think it's key for guys like him to slowly get their confidence going in the Big Ten. And also teams prepare for him a lot harder now because now he's the vocal point. Teams are going to send different guys at him, send different looks at him, shade him differently. So I think he's going to see different. And I think that was really what it might have been it because teams were playing him differently. I always say all the time that conference play and non-conference play is different because teams are preparing for you more. Some teams you may play twice. They have a longer time to prepare for you. And so I think Aaron Henry saw some different looks he wasn't used to seeing, didn't really translate it. He might have got frustrated and everyone just kind of went down. But now that he's got something lit, he has, Tom Izzo lit a fire under him.
Yeah.
He's starting to play a lot better and it's good for him right now.
Yeah, I mean, you also know, you also know this too, Terry, as a player, most recently, when you have controversy or a challenge with your coach, we go back to what happened with him and Aaron Henry several years ago. You build a bond. And I think that if Aaron Henry continues to play like this, he'll be ready to make the transition. And again, we get this expectation. You know who we need to blame in all this? We need to blame Cassius Winston. Blame Cassius for being so great. We need to blame Cassius for being one of the most least athletic looking players that we've seen at the guard position, and coming out there and making it seem so effortless that we turn around and say, man, what's the problem? You see what Cassius did? Cassius was one of the greatest point guards to come through Michigan State, and now he's in the NBA and he's going to do well for himself. So I think fandom allows us to be very critical, and the unique perspective that I have and you have, Coach Glover, Coach Watkins has, that we're so close to the game that we can see things a little differently and have a little bit more institutional knowledge than the casual observer who may look and just say whatever. And I think people may already assume that I have a bias towards Michigan State. I would say that I'm very much supportive of these players. I want these guys to be successful because I have time in with them. But I think I'm also able to be very open and objective. And I use the whole alpha male statement that led to the whole alpha dog discussion. I said, damn, Tom, I'm watching the Big Ten Network right now, and I'm seeing my team and all these guys. I'm looking on the court, and I don't see anything. And you know what made me think of that, Terry? You know what really made me think of that? And I've come to scrimmage with you guys over at Eastern. Shout out to Coach Dave Jones and Coach Justin Christian. And you know what happens when a team is losing? Somebody got to start arguing with the other person. Somebody got to be like, hey, man, what's up? You got to have some friction. I'm not saying and I'm definitely not saying you have to have this whole issue where you can't function, where you're like, this whole broken family or whatnot, but you need to have some friction to say, hey, man, what's going on? And when I didn't see that in the Minnesota game, that's what made me bring up that statement. However, Izzo came back like he's not going to be soft. So I think he walked that line and he brought it back. But to Aaron Henry, man, I think he's going to continue to do well. He has really taken the team on his shoulders. I think that 3-game skid was good for them because it let them know, it can happen. As in, like Chuck Daly talking about the dream team and them losing to the college kids back in 1992 before they went on their gold medal run and made history. But I just really think that Aaron Henry is a great player. And the disadvantage Aaron Henry has is social media, meaning that we've been able to watch him so much more closely than we've been able to watch other players, especially when you talk about the history that him and Tom had, the big blow up they had, and regardless how someone feels about that. So as we wrap up this part about basketball, so just finally, just your thoughts. Is Aaron Henry the alpha dog going further, or does he have some more things to develop to get to that point?
I would say yes and no. I'll probably say with co-alpha dog with Josh Langford. I think with Langford's experience and the way that he's grown, because even talking to him in the press conference, you could just tell that he's like that vocal leader. Aaron Henry's a little soft-spoken, but I would say definitely those two just by Aaron's play, and then Josh just because he's been there for so long. He's been there with Bridges.
Aaron's play, Josh's presence.
Yep.
They're good. Okay, I like that. Hey man, you've done a great job. And tomorrow I look forward to being over at the Breslin Center. It's a night game, Friday night. I'm not with my daughter. I'm hanging out at the Breslin Center. Couldn't be a better place to be. Let's talk about some football, man. I know you love that college football playoffs are moving right along. It is time for the national championship game, the Natty game. Look at you. Smile come on your face because you get to talk about those guys down in Columbus, Ohio State versus Alabama. At first glance, man. Okay, how about this? I don't know what your scouting report is about to be right now, but can you give me something in this scouting report, Terry, that give me some positive points about Alabama and give me some scenario where they could win, but also you could do the same thing for Ohio State. But I just don't know if you're capable of having any other outcome where Ohio State is not winning. I know you're a big Ohio State fan.
When you see, if you watch your favorite team so much, you see their weaknesses. And I think Ohio State's weaknesses has always been, in my opinion, their linebackers out on the perimeter. I think, with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle possibly coming back and Najee Harris, those guys are going to challenge Ohio State on the perimeter, which is why I think this might be their toughest game as a unit in the last couple of years.
Who's toughest game?
I think this Alabama game coming up. I think
Alabama being the toughest opponent for Ohio State, you're saying?
Yeah, like in the last couple of years, I believe that this Alabama team, if they get Waddle back, is going to be one of the toughest teams Ohio State has seen in years because they bring you so much. I mean, Mac Jones, people arguably say he's not that good because of what he has around him, but he's going to make the throws. Najee Harris is going to run the ball hard. Their offensive line is great. And Devontae Smith and now Waddle coming back, I mean, they can hit you in any kind of way. So I think if they challenge Ohio State on the perimeter, use their speed, and and outrun these linebackers Ohio State has, I think that's going to lead to a lot of points and possibly a victory for Alabama. And I think Ohio State, they have to try and limit the running game. I think if you try and make Alabama one-dimensional the best you can, I think that's the best way you can go. I mean, Belichick has done that for years when they played Patrick Mahomes. They slowed the ball down because, like, Ohio State, I think if they run the ball well with Sherman and they control the clock and doesn't let Alabama establish a rhythm on offense, I think it keeps the game close and gives you a chance. Because if they try to go shoot out with Alabama, it's going to be a long night for Ohio State. So I think the best thing they can do, kind of cater to the old school Big Ten, maybe possibly grind that clock out, score. You got to score in the red zone. We can't take any field goals. You got to score when you play a team like Alabama and keep the pressure on them and make them kind of throw the ball a little bit more than they want to.
Yeah. Alabama's game against Clemson, man, I mean, if that could have been a national championship game, it was worthy of it, and Justin Fields, his play, what he showed those NFL scouts when he has to go sit for those meetings. Oh, when he came back in that game, he shut it down. That was GM talk. That was, player president, like in the meeting, owner talk. Like, he's probably going to be one of the top picks anyway, but I think that right there solidified any questions people have. And he can go in there with a chip on his shoulder. Now, here's the one thing I'll say about Ohio State. I have to give Alabama the advantage, Terry. And, I wouldn't say this comment lightly because I'm talking to you and I know how you feel. And let me just tell you why. It's a slight advantage. When I traveled on the road last season with the Big Ten for a lot of Michigan State games, I'll mention 3 places that I went to in particular. Now, I'm not talking about the team and their record at the time. I'm talking about the atmosphere and what I got from it. Michigan, it was a big house. Great food in the press box. It was lovely, great appeal, but it was still a big house. There was a ton of people there. Wisconsin, oh my God, Wisconsin was balling at the time, and that crowd was off the hook. They played the song Jump Around by House of Pain, Terry, and literally the press box started shaking, literally, like you're in an earthquake. So I'm talking about, that's another type of experience. I'm talking about the Michigan experience, the big house, quote unquote glamour and all that. Wisconsin being rowdy. But when I got to the shoe, when I got to Ohio State, and when I was on that field, I felt championship. I felt that everybody in that stadium believed in winning a championship. How do you describe that feeling? It's a different kind of feeling. Slightly arrogant, but they knew. And I'm not just talking about the players, Terry. I'm talking about from the cheerleaders to the band, to everybody in the stand. They was in there like, oh, we win national championships. So there's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about this championship or bust. But the only advantage I'm going to give Alabama in this case is this, Terry. I want you to tell me what you think. In the event that they get met with something that they're not ready for, that's very unlikely, first and foremost, because of Nick Saban's ability to be prepared. I mean, after the national championship game, win or lose, he's back in the office the next day. And Alabama's ability to continuously step up. Now, with that being said, the Alabama national championship pedigree, I think, is a little bit stronger because if them boys ain't winning the national championship, they playing in it. You know what I'm saying? So how many guys are on this roster who have had that experience? Now, it's been since 2014 that Ohio State won a national championship, meaning the only people who can talk about that experience are people on the coaching staff, potentially the AD, but you don't have players in there saying that. And I just think when it comes down to it, there's a good chance, and I hate to say this about your beloved Ohio State, is that they may have blew their whole wad on last week's game against Clemson. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. They can come in and have the same kind of performance and overwhelm Alabama. Overwhelm them like they overwhelm the Capitol Police. I shouldn't have said that. But Alabama, man, I don't know. At the end of the day, man, this is what they do, Terry. Now, please share your thoughts.
I mean, I would say so, but I remember the last time. I obviously different team, but back there down in 2014 when Ohio State played Alabama in that Sugar Bowl. I mean, it was like the talks, like I mentioned on the last show, about Ohio State shouldn't be there. They're not that good. They come out, punch Clemson in the face, Fields for 6 touchdowns. They look explosive. Defense played pretty good, but now they're in another, they beat Clemson. They're like, oh, they shut up Dabo, but Saban a different team. Saban's team is a different monster. And so you hear talks like, oh, they're not going to beat Bama, though. They're not going to beat them. I think that kind of fuels you. I mean, going from a team called that's voted 11th, because I think that's going to stick with them until this is all over with. Voted, and Dabo thinks that they're 11th. Now they beat Dabo, and teams are like, oh, they're not going to beat Bama, though. Bama and Clemson different. Bama different. They're not going to stop Devontae Smith and Harris. I mean, the talk is going on and on. I think Ohio State really has nothing to lose. I mean, you got the Heisman Trophy winner on the other side, Mac Jones.
He may be a little off the ground. He may be floating right now. He may not be locked in. You probably don't want to play somebody who just lost the Heisman Trophy, even though someone did, because that's what happened like with Vince Young. Remember when he came back on the national championship against USC? But please, we're going to see. You make actually point. I mean, all we can do is really speculate right now. And I think what's edging me towards one over the other is just the pedigree. And it doesn't mean Ohio State isn't, a championship pro. It is. Like I said, when I went there, it was something about them, man. I'm talking about just being on the field, the atmosphere. They were there like, oh, we are here to get it done. And that may, in fact, be the case. But I'll be really surprised to see what happens with that. So we got national football, college football is going down. The 8th is coming up very soon. Let me ask you about the NFL now. Now we're getting ready to transition into NFL. We're getting into that playoff time. Well, it's getting lined up. That put a smile on your face. So tell me what you got for our NFL playoff preview.
Yeah, so I mean, we got a lot of matchups going down. Bills end up being the 2nd seed with the Steelers losing. They play the Colts at home. They got Steelers and Browns. Browns make the playoffs since 2002. I'm very happy about that. And it got a little too close at the end. I think they started to ride that playoff high a little bit too early and just had to, but we're in there. We got a lot of people out due to COVID, but we're in. So as long as we're in, we got a chance. So we got the Titans and Ravens, a little rematch from last season when Lamar, I think they went 14-2, lost, got their butts handed to them. They got them kicked by Derrick Henry. So, and then on the other side, they got the Packers with the bye, the Bears at the Saints, Rams at Seahawks, and my man Chase Young. They got a playoff home game against Tom Brady. So it gets some good games.
He was running off the field saying, "I want Tom," and what did Bruce Arians say? Hey, be careful what you ask for. I want to talk about that. I also want to go back to Lamar Jackson for a second too. But with Tom Brady, people say, "Look, man, this man is built for the playoffs. Like, it's a different kind of thing." And I think we forget, man, we look at people during the regular season, the LeBrons of the world who's kind of resting, the other people chilling. These guys are here to win the top title in their respective sport. And their playoff game is totally different from their regular season game. One of my best friends growing up, Meathead, Demetrius Blackshears, that is, I would always call him and say, "Man, you see so-and-so lost to so-and-so." He's like, "It ain't the off yet, though. It ain't the off, so it's not the playoff." So with that being said, speaking of playoff, Lamar Jackson, I believe 0-2 in the playoffs right now, if I'm correct. What does this playoff game do to his potential legacy already? Because as we call him the, Tecmo Bowl / computer game type player, with all due respect, I say that with high respect for him, you get to this point where you can't move on in the playoffs. What's that going to be said? Do you think there's some major implications to this game, him finally getting a playoff win?
I think it does. I think the advantage with this game against the Titans is that I think it's kind of dangerous when you're playing teams like them and like the Colts and the Browns and, I would say maybe the Bears, not so much, but mostly on the AFC side, you're playing against teams that have already been playing playoff situation games. Like the Ravens, they couldn't lose another game pretty much to get in. The Colts couldn't lose another game. The Browns been playing playoff football since the Monday night game against the Ravens. I would argue at that point for the Ravens, Colts, and the Browns at that point after the Monday night game, I think for moving on, they could not lose if they wanted to get in. Same with the Titans a little bit, but I feel like the advantage kind of goes to those teams because they know what it's like to have do or die every week in the National Football League. It's hard to play like that every week. And so coming in, like the Browns might catch the Steelers slipping because they've been playing for their playoff hopes all year. The Ravens might catch the Titans slipping because Lamar Jackson had to play dang near perfect every week for them to get in this situation. So those teams are always dangerous when you talk about the NFL playoffs.
You know, just hearing you give that awesome recap, Terry, and also just watching sports, the news, it seems like playoffs are really trumping the COVID issues, meaning that now that playoff talk is here, there's no talk about an asterisk by a team's name or saying like these playoffs are different. I mean, people are like, oh, it's that time. And regardless of what the preparation has been like, I think you got to give credit overall to the NFL and, of course, the NBA and their COVID protocols because you're not really hearing disastrous shutdowns of programs or whatnot. But now, man, I got that playoff fever. You feel like it's authentic, you know. And I guess it was a big question in the air if, you know, the current things happening with COVID in the world would impact us like that. So I guess it kind of leads to my next topic I have, you know, with the playoffs and something that you and I kind of talked about. You know, we're playing the playoffs. The NCAA just announced they're going to be in the bubble format in Indianapolis for the NCAA tournament. I'm looking forward to get down there. You see all these things happening, but you still have, you know, lockdowns in certain states, et cetera. And it's kind of a comment that I made to you. We were talking the other night about everything that's going on. I said, America's for sale. And when I say America's for sale, Terry, I don't really mean it in a nasty way, but I mean it in a very, like, did you see what happened on TV yesterday from a black person's perspective type thing? Or to Draymond's point and the press conference he had when he said, it's what we've been seeing, it's what we know, and it probably won't change. So me going back to that comment about America being for sale, here's my point. In America, you are tolerated based on what you can provide. We hear that in professional sports all the time. Look at Dwayne Haskins. We've been talking about that the last couple of weeks. Because Dwayne Haskins wasn't providing what he needed to provide, he wasn't tolerated. His behavior wasn't tolerated like that. But Michael Jordan, on the other hand, could bust Steve Kerr in the eye or get the flu and the team trainer would bring the medicine to his house compared to everybody else. That's it. So going back to my comment about America for sale, it's just like, man, the only way you can really create a platform is to really have value. Now, who determines that value? If you're 6'6", can shoot the rock, or can throw the ball with pinpoint accuracy or catch it over the top, there may be some value for you in that regard. But if you're a bright young man like Terry McCord, or you're Glover Ernest, or you're Orlando Watkins, you know, working with these young people consistently, you know, you do it as well. So what I'm getting at, Terry, and I want to get your thoughts on, like with everything that we're watching going on in the world politically, the whole sports world that has seemed to have been able to survive, and the NCAA is looking to get that $350+ million that they missed last season. It's like certain things are allowed because of the money it can make somebody, and certain things are overlooked because it doesn't make any money. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, you saw the jump from the Rose Bowl, I think, in the college football playoff.
Excellent example there. Excellent example that America's for sale. You go from the Rose Bowl, the traditional. Oh, let me try to sell it really good. The traditional, pure,
the granddaddy of them all.
The granddaddy of them all. The Rose Bowl and the parade of roses. And oh, this is it. Oh, we can't play there in California. Oh, we going to Texas. We going to Jerry Square. We out. And we going to the biggest venue we could go to. That's an excellent example. And is it hypocritical? Something to argue that. But I think what I'm trying to get at is, how do I function as a black man in America, as a father, as, you know, someone's partner, as a friend, as a mentor, as just a good guy, without processing that? And I think when I process it like America's for sale, what it allows me to do is say, Lindsay, keep bringing value so you continue to get paid in the form of dollars, in the form of access, in the form of influence. But if you're not providing something of value in America, they got nothing for you, man. What do you think?
I think that's true. I think just with the whole playoff example, I mean, Notre Dame mentioned that if parents and if parents can come to the game, we didn't want to play. And I think the college football committee was like, well, we're not going to get as much revenue if we don't let Notre Dame, whose fan base
Notre Dame
everywhere.
But what that did was that was a dog whistle too. In other words, Notre Dame was saying, look, our alumni are cold-blooded. We everywhere, we're influential, and I'm just gonna put that out there. And most people may have said, oh yeah, whatever. They were like, but Notre Dame knows the influence that they have, and ABC, NBC, all these networks don't want to be getting no phone calls from these Notre Dame alums or Notre Dame alums who are already out there,
Right.
in the world doing type of things like that. But I guess I get to this point with the time that we have is that for those who are listening and following us, who have been, shout out to our guy Aaron Meads, who's been doing that, and others, it's kind of like you need to have that kind of understanding in order to function. I talked about at the beginning of this podcast how much I appreciated you by keeping me on task, by having the ability to stand strong. So, okay, Lindsay, we got to deal with these issues out here. And then here I am trying to function and get through it, man. And I got to admit, man, I'm traumatized. And I'm talking about the kind of trauma, man, that can be some of the deadliest kind because it's subtle. It's like right up under the surface. And that's the deadly kind that can lead to things like strokes, heart attacks. And by all means, to any of our listeners, I'm not in that kind of shape. I'm doing well. I'm losing weight. I'm working out every day, eating well. But I think I've come to a conclusion that the America that we want it to be, that may seemingly be out of reach, is still possible and bearable if you recognize how America operates. America is about that bread. And if you can bring some value, you will get a little bit of tolerance. If you can bring some value, you'll get a little bit of a platform. If you can bring some value, they'll let you rock a little bit. But it's only to the degree of the value you bring.
I think the biggest thing with you mentioning that, I think LeBron James, a guy that I like to use a lot of his examples, his lifestyle, I mean, he uses basketball as his value. I mean, a guy who's been exceptional at basketball for all his life, to be making that much money. But then I like to think of it as people value him playing basketball. Well, he's going to turn around and make it, all right, I'm going to use that value and give back and use it to my advantage. I mean, this is a guy who has been investing in different companies, making a ton of money, multiple sources of income. I mean, he's a guy that's about to be on the verge of being a billionaire that doesn't need to have these huge contracts playing ball. So, I mean, a guy who's giving back to the community, changing lives in Akron every day, changing lives everywhere across the country every day. I mean, he's been huge on just noticing that people are going to pay to see him play. So he's like, well, I'm going to use this to my advantage. I mean, the Lakers, Cavs, Heat have all made a tremendous amount of money off of his name just because he plays for them. And he uses that knowing that they're going to have him around because they're making money to cater to his own people and uplift other people because he knows that he's not going anywhere. He's LeBron James.
If I can add to that, it's funny, when I was in corporate America, Ohio was one of the states I had when I was lobbying. And of course, going to Cleveland, going to a game was a big to-do. And I got to go to a game. I got to see LeBron leaving, meet his mom, got to meet Shaq. I gave Shaq a hug. My head was like at his chest, and it was just crazy. But to your point, I'll never get a gentleman that I met who was a lobbyist as well. And he said an economic study was done for the city of Cleveland by the Cleveland Chamber of Commerce. And they talked about the revenue that LeBron James created. I don't know, you being a guy from that state, in Cleveland, there was this area called, I think it's like the downtown. It's kind of like, it's like the alley or something like that, where it's all these businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Whatnot. Yep. And the whole thing would be, you get off work, you go hang out down the alley, you spend money, you drink, eat, and everyone converges onto the game. And I was fortunate. I was rolling big. I had a suite there. We got to just sit back and chill and see the game. But they talked about the economic impact that LeBron made. They said, dude, he brought millions to that. And this was in Cleveland early on. So imagine when he went to super sexy Miami and then just really kill a game and take it to LA, you know. So the impact he's having is this, you're right, and he's recognizing his value. Are all players doing that? No. Are all players building a brand like that? No. But I think LeBron James is an excellent example of someone who recognizes his value and recognizes his brand, and still does not put his brand before the ethics of what he believes in. I think that's very important.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's key, whether for anybody growing or trying to find themselves in America during these troubled times. Find something that you value and something you like to do. In America, find a way, work on it, work hard at it. Like with me doing with the show and going into the business field of things, find something that you like to do and then make it some kind of value and make it, grow it, make it a value in this country and do what you can do with that and continue to have fun with it. I think LeBron's been having fun. A lot of these players like Lillard, what he's been doing.
I love
even
the commercial. Lulu, it's a lifestyle. See, you got Dame Dollar behind you. Dame's a dope rapper. I don't care what nobody say. To rap and can drop buckets like that, he cold, man.
Yeah, I mean, he just, finding what people are willing to pay for and then establishing himself, his family. I think that's the right way to go, especially right now. I mean, everyone's looking for something to grasp onto. And so if you work hard and they see how you value your own work, other people are going to grasp to it and want to invest in you because you first got to value your own work to get somebody to be convinced that he's about his business.
That's an excellent point. The key thing you said, not to be overlooked or overshadowed, was work hard. Dame puts in work. So I think when we hear him rap, for example, it probably is the same kind of work ethic he puts into being able to shoot from the logo. And the final thing I'll say about that, man, when you talk about what we want to focus on going forward and what I try to encourage listeners, whether they're listening here on the Streets of Talking Podcast Network, the SPS Edge Show, whether it is, the SPS Monday Motivation or one of the SPS Games of the Week or whatever it may be, man, I say focus on what you love. Because I tell you what, when I got up this morning and looked at the news, and like I said, I knew that part of my work day was going to include this press call with Tom Izzo. And it felt a relief, one, to be able to ask, two, to get the answer that I got, but also know that I could take this information and share it, and that can be helpful. I mean, Josh Langford, we heard him on the podcast, did an excellent job on what he said. So I think it's important for people to know that to find peace, man, you got to be working on what you want to work on. And believe me, when I started on this path, it wasn't always easy. I'm fortunate the phone calls I'm getting, the opportunities that are opening themselves up, being able to work and help a young man like you develop and go on and do great things. But I think the key I want our listeners to know, man, it gets back to it is you find your peace by being plugged into what you love or what you care about. I know we got Orlando and Glove in the car right now. They're making their moves, but they're connected with what they love, and they help so many people. So, Terry, I'm looking at the time, and so that we can be all set. Any final words you have before we get out of here for the day?
No, I mean, really just through these troubling times, I mean, continue to find your way to escape from it, which mine was, taking a relaxing bath and watching hoops. Do whatever you can do to find yourself, that inner peace throughout these, chaotic times. And also find, kind of what I said earlier, just find that value, find something to value in, actually take action on it, find something that you like to do, grow it, if it means, drawing and starting your own local, kind of your own business, just making pictures and selling them. That's income. That's something that people value and people are going to buy. So really just invest in yourself and see what it can do for you.
Well, great words. I'm not surprised. Again, Terry, I want to thank you for being so supportive and what you've been doing to add value to the SPS Edge podcast. Again, shout out to the Streets of Talking Podcast Network, Clarence Barbour and Don Houston. And shout out to Coach Orlando Watkins and Glover Ernest for supporting us today, getting our message out. And those in Canada who may be listening, we got a number of love for you too. And with that being said, we'll be back next week with another episode of the SPS Edge Show. So thank you guys for tuning in, and see you next time.